Today's discussion is going to be about the power of the mind. I like this little image. Whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. Having to do with our thoughts and how many people fixate and become compulsive with their thoughts so that they're repetitive, and these thoughts in our subconscious mind become a reality. They have more of a role in not only our mental health but also our physical health than mainstream medicine has yet admitted. So obviously the pandemic is what we're going through, and it's not overstated to say that we do have a depression epidemic. Anxiety, being locked in your house, being isolated from people, having to relive the same day over and over and over again if you're locked down, that Groundhog Day effect of having the same crappy day, not to mention the fears of getting the disease or losing your job or loved ones. We are in a crisis, and it has to do with how we think. The mind is its own place, and in itself it can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven. We've talked about this before, but the idea, just the way you look at things, I mean, if you have what was called an attitude of gratitude, if you're sort of thankful and kind, you can't at the same time have lots of grudges and fears in your mindset. It's basically a choice. Most people tend to turn a little more negative. We have over 17,000 on average existences of self-talk a day. In other words, thoughts popping into our heads. I would argue that it's probably higher than that now. And of that 17,000, they have said that at least 70% are critical and negative thoughts. You know, how do these pants look on me, or I'm losing my hair, or why didn't Jill call me, etc., etc. The way we choose to look at life is the only power we really have over life. We can't control life. We can control how we look at things. And unfortunately, during this pandemic and in modern society, we tend to make a hell of heaven quite often in many cases. Okay, so in this slide, if you jump right to the middle, you see flight and fight, the fight-flight mechanism, and then above it you have freeze. The concept is this. In a perfect world, if you jump to the bottom where it's green, we would have lots of social engagement. We would be talking to people. We would be compassionate. We would be full of joy. We'd be in the present, meaning not in our constant thought patterns. We're going to talk a lot about mindfulness this year. You'd be mindful, as it says. But unfortunately, most people aren't at that place. Most people have a central nervous system that is stuck in the pink area of fight or flight, or perhaps they're in the blue area where they literally shut down. The idea is we have a central nervous system, and in a perfect world, about 95% of the time, we're just chilling. It's called rest and digest. The parasympathetic system is working, that's in the green, and everything is good. And then, holy crap, it's a bear, and our body flips over to fight or flight, and it releases dopamine and adrenaline and cortisol, different hormones, to deal with the stress. And then once the bear's gone, we're supposed to flip back to the parasympathetic rest and digest. Unfortunately, we are now stuck. Many, many, many people are stuck forever in fight or flight, or freeze, as in some people's case. So some of you might connect with this, and maybe it's some eye-opening moments, but these are among the things that happen when you hit fight or flight. I mean, the idea of breathing becoming fast and shallow and the heartbeat becoming faster. You can be in a room, be fine, get a phone call from a loved one about bad news, and you can literally have a physiological, meaning a physical effect based on the news that you just heard in your head. And the idea of insomnia. Many people can't sleep when they're stuck in fight or flight. Many people don't digest food well in fight or flight. The leg muscles become tensed and strengthened. People get, this is the freeze aspect, people literally, their bodies get this tension in it. And this happens because of the way we're thinking about things. So, how can we try to fix this is the question. Is there a way to fix this? Because when you're freaking out that you're in fight or flight, you're just going to freak out some more. A possible way to fix this is the concept of neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity, I'm going to show you a little video in a second, is literally a way to rewire your brain. Harvard and other colleges have just come around to this, but it's been something that's been talked about in Eastern philosophy by somebody like Paramahansa Yogananda for years.
For many years, scientists thought that the brain was fixed and couldn't adapt or change after childhood. But advances in fMRI scanning have shown that this could not be further from the truth. We can now see that our brains change and adapt every day, regardless of our age. Every time we learn something new, we're harnessing the power of neuroplasticity. Neuroscientists believe we have over 100 billion neurons in our brain, each capable of connecting to tens of thousands of others. Neurons are the building blocks of the brain, and each one can make trillions of connections every second. When we learn a new skill or think about something differently, we begin to make new connections between neurons. Every time we practice a new skill, think in a certain way, or feel a specific emotion, those related connections are then strengthened, and it becomes easier for our brains to follow this pathway. If we keep using this pathway, our brains begin to adapt, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The less we use our old pathways, the weaker that pathway becomes. It's this ability to make new connections that has enabled scientists to coin the term neuroplasticity, meaning our brains are pliable and plastic and can grow, adapt, and change.
So the idea of neuroplasticity is to reprogram your mind. As the video showed, you create certain pathways in your head based upon the way that you are thinking. If you are a negative thinker, if you tend to repeatedly think the worst, somebody doesn't get here in time and you start freaking out that they're cheating on you or worse, that neural pathway, that path in your brain is strengthened and reinforced, and it becomes a habit. You may have heard that it takes 21 days to form a new habit. If you decide most of you hopefully brush your teeth every day, but I don't have to think about brushing my teeth in the morning. It's something that's a habit of my many years on earth. Well, we have habitual negative thinking. And neuroplasticity tries to force you, in whatever different manners possible, to think in more positive ways. And in thinking in these positive ways, we build a stronger new way of thinking, and the old negative way of thinking hopefully falls away. One of the ways that this can be done is something that I tried, the dynamic neural retraining system. It's literally a brainwashing thing. What I'm supposed to do, I suffer from Lyme disease, as soon as I have one of the repetitive negative thoughts that plague my life and my mindset since I've been sick, I'm supposed to literally catch myself in that negative thought, and I'm supposed to go through the following little protocol, which I have basically memorized because I've said it so many times. So as soon as my negative thoughts begin, I'm supposed to say, stop, stop, stop. My brain is stuck in a rut, and it's sending my body faulty signals. And then I say, in Lyme disease, an overprotective immune system in the past has led to uncomfortable symptoms, and here's the key part. But now I know that these symptoms are only the result of a cross-wired limbic system, and I choose to rewire my brain. Limbic system is the part of the brain, the HPA axis, the hypothalamus. It's the part of the brain that judges if there is danger. It's the part of the brain that has to do with your emotional state and your mindset. In the case of Lyme disease or any sort of traumatic PTSD experience or long chronic disease or just having to deal with life, we can get stuck and our limbic system will freak out. If you're somebody who at a young age had a parent who yelled, and that sent you as a young child into issues mentally, anytime somebody yells, that might trigger you. That's an example of your limbic system being, as they say, cross-wired. The choice to rewire your brain has to do with catching yourself in a negative thought and then adjusting yourself back into positivity. As I said, the concept each time you catch your mind going to worry about thoughts of a problem, you need to redirect. That's the important thing. And by redirecting, you're going to carve out a new positive neural pathway, and the negative one goes away just by thinking positively. Another example of this is another way to deal with this is something known as TMS. It's transverse myelitis syndrome, but it's the concept that the medical advice we hear is making us worse. And the example of it's from John Sarno. The example of it is the vast number of people who complain of back injuries. You hear about a back problem, you hear about MRIs, you hear about slipped discs, and then you have a bad back and you go and they say you have a slip disc, and then you think the slip disc is the cause of your back problem. But the issue is there's lots of people with slip discs who don't have back problems. The back problem, according to Sarno, has to do with emotional baggage we're carrying that is causing our body to go into this fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. And if you look on that book cover, all of the different things from irritable bowel to ulcers to arthritis to high blood pressure to GERD, which is basically you need stomach acid pills for it. I forgot what it's called all of a sudden. I don't remember. It's like heartburn, excuse me. And so they say, or John Sarno says, you need to accept the diagnosis. The diagnosis is the pain you feel in your body isn't from something wrong in your body. It's coming from your psychology. It's coming from your inner tension, from how you've been thinking. And so they say you need to start thinking psychologically, stop blaming this on your injury and thinking that there's an injury that needs to be fixed. Rather, the injury is in how you're thinking. They say stop all physical treatments and begin to think that you can actually fix your own situation by thinking positively. You then, once similar to DNSR, you begin to deliberately and consciously redirect your thoughts out of the negative to a positive place. Now, that seems pretty basic. Could that reverse pain? It says, simple, challenging. Is there more to it? Not really. That's the point of this concept. We spend thousands of dollars going to doctors trying to fix things, but maybe our brains have more power than we give them credit for.
Focus only on the sound of my voice and the sound of the melody that's playing in the background. Any point you should hear me say the word sleep, you drop, you collapse. Only the person that I'm touching right now, Marbion. How you feeling, Marbion? Feeling good? Close your eyes for me. Sleep, just drifting and relax. Everybody on stage in just a moment. Not yet, but in just a moment. You're going to realize, hey, how's it going, buddy? Just look right here. See that light up there? Sleep. Behind the wheel of that car, eyes still closed. 1, 2, 3. Be seated up straight. Grab the wheel of the car. Adjust your steering wheel. Turn the radio on. All right. And we're going to take off. We're going to go for a little drive. And the person I'm touching right now, thank you is now the worst word that you've ever heard in your entire life. Anytime you hear me, just me personally, say the word thank you, it offends you more than anything that you've ever heard. Let me have that for a second. Just a second. Thank you so much. So, what's going on? No, not at all. Look at that light up there for me. You look at that light? Just focus on that light for me. As you look at that light, sleep. Thank you for being so honest. I appreciate that. You look irritated. I'm just trying to... One seat over to your right for me. One seat over to your right. There we go. Sleep, drift, relax, collapse. Just glue to the chair. Don't fall out of the chair. Or out of it. You're stuck like glue. No matter how hard you try, you can't get out of this position. Keep trying to figure it out. See if you can figure that out for me. How you feeling?
Hypnosis. Is this something that you believe in? When you're watching all of those football players roll around the floor, a lot of kids will say they're faking, but they're not faking. The brain is so powerful. The power of suggestion. I found this little ad, Suggestive Lifestyles. I've done it in class before where I've hypnotized kids. And it's literally just a mechanism by which I have you put your hands out, and then I have you close your eyes, and I do the whole hypnotist voice thing, and I imagine that I tell you that rain is falling on your hands, and then I tell you that, oops, it wasn't rain, it was the stickiest glue ever. And then I have you put your hands together tightly while I do the whole tighter, you're getting deeper, sleeper sort of thing. And then all of a sudden, there's a number of kids whose hands are stuck together. Well, what is that? How did I make kids' hands stuck together? Well, it's because I have superpowers. No, it's not that at all. It's because some people have a suggestive mindset. In other words, they hear a suggestion and they can literally, through their mind, have it happen to them. I have witnessed hypnosis, and it's quite freaky and amazing at how it operates. Can I hypnotize you? As I said, right there is the picture of the person with their hands stuck together. The first time I did it, the kids asked, how do you hypnotize someone? And I just did it as a lark. And then 3 kids' hands were stuck together. And I thought to myself, well, crap, I got mad skills, but now I've got kids' hands stuck together. I'm going to get in trouble. Some incidents of hypnotism that I've witnessed, and I have been hypnotized myself, but before we get to that, when I went to Yukon, there was a hypnotist named James Mapes, and the first thing, he was just talking about the power of hypnosis, and then all of a sudden he took an orange with a peel on, and he bit into it. That's not James Mapes. And people, like 10, 20, 30 people from the crowd, jumped up, ran full speed up to the stage, and fell down on the stage, lying on the stage. And everybody's like, what the hell is that? It turns out that they had been hypnotized the previous time, and he had told them, if you ever see me bite into an orange with the peel on, that you're going to jump on the stage. And then he proceeded to do a whole bunch of hypnosis with them. Now, maybe there are a few people who were faking, and he's usually pretty good at weeding those people out. But he had people remembering past lives and remembering what they got for their 4th grade birthday party and who didn't show up. Just amazing stuff where he was able to use the power of the mind. Another thing that I saw, I was actually hypnotized my senior year graduation, and the guy sitting next to me, a friend of mine, we were both up there on the stage, and when the show was over, everybody was out there. There's maybe 10 of us on the stage, and the hypnotist asked my friend, how long have you been on the stage? It felt to me about 5 or 10 minutes, and he had my friend look on his watch. Now, he had a really hairy arm, and when he looked on his watch, he noticed that we'd actually been on stage for 3 hours, which was a shock to everybody on the stage because it felt like 10 minutes. But then he noticed that the hair had literally been burned off his arm. While under hypnosis, I saw the video later, the hypnotist asked the crowd of my classmates, who's faking? And they said this one individual, Jeremy. And then he took a lighter. This is back in the 80s, which I don't think you probably get fired for this. He took a lighter and he burned the hair off of his arm by his watch, knowing that he was going to ask him what time it was at the end. But the point was, Jeremy felt no pain. Another thing that happened, and I'm going to show you a video in a moment, is how he took a girl from my class who was not physically fit, compared to the girl you're going to see in the next slide who is physically fit. He had her, basically, he told her stiff and rigid out of the board, and he was able to have her do what you're going to see in this next slide. Hypnosis and the power of the mind is so much more powerful than we probably realize.
A cataleptic state. With each and every exhale, you're becoming even more stiff. Simmer rigid as a steel bar. In a moment, you're going to fall back. You're going to float. You are so light. You're going to be suspended in a cataleptic state, a state of catalepsy. Your body's becoming even stiffer and more rigid as I count from 3 down to 0. 3, 2, 1. Even stiffer and more rigid. Fall back. Right now, you're going to float. Your legs are stiff and rigid. They're stiff and rigid as a steel bar. Fall back. She's stiff and rigid as a steel bar. Move your hands, gentlemen. Move your hands completely. Look at her. She is stuck in a cataleptic state. The entire body is stiff and rigid as a steel bar, yet internally she's completely, totally relaxed. This is the power of the mind. Total and complete body rigidity. We can actually stand on her and she can hold 250 pounds without even feeling the thing. Gentlemen, I want you to come over here, please. I want you to come right over here. I want you to lift her in the air, in fact. Lift her right up in the air and feel, look at the body, how stiff and rigid it is. Lift her all the way into the air. Look at how stiff and rigid she is. She is in a state of catalepsy. I want you to put her feet down right now. Put her feet down. Lift her all the way up. On the count of 3, I want you to open your eyes and look at the audience. 1, 2, 3, eyes open. Relax your hands, relax your legs. You can move right now, you can walk. And just look at the audience right now. Give her a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Total, complete body rigidity. I want you to have a seat in your chair right there. Sit down in your chair. Sit down in your chair. Close your eyes right now. And now go deep asleep. Sleep. Deeper and deeper sleep.
The placebo effect. Who knows what the placebo effect is? Some people might know, but the placebo is the concept where one person gets the real medicine and another person gets a sugar pill. But if you believe that that sugar pill is going to make you well, if you truly believe it, that sugar pill can work. Now, is it saying that sugar cures the problem? No. It says that belief in the power of the mind can cure this issue. So here's an example, and you can look this up. I don't know if it's really ethical, to be honest, but a doctor wanted to show an experiment on placebos. And he had 3 groups who came in with knee pain. They had chronic knee pain. The first group, he took off thin layers of their cartilage, so he did knee surgery. The second group, he did a completely knee reconstruction. What does he do with the third group? The third group, he does a simulated surgery. They go in for a surgery. They go under anesthesia. He makes a couple of just nothing incisions on the leg and then stitches them up. He does no operation on the knee, but you who are under anesthesia and unconscious think that he did. For 2 years, those people thought they had their knee operation was real. What do we find out? What was found out in the results is that all 3 groups had less pain, and in fact, there was no difference between the person who had the complete knee redone and the person who had the placebo, who had the fake knee done. Now, that's amazing. People will just say, oh, it's the placebo. But the idea that your mind can heal your knee, or at least make the pain go away, as much as the person who has the bad knee. Part of the TMS that we talked about earlier is we hear all of these medical things. If you're watching TV long enough and they put up some new drug and they list 93 side effects, we're being obliterated every day. Not obliterated, we're being hit with these concepts constantly, and it kind of factors in our mind. I mean, there was a basketball player years ago who had a ingrown toenail or some sort of medical condition, and as soon as he had it, the number of people who had that same condition went up greatly in the city he was in, because just the thought of something wrong was enough for them to feel it. Such is the power of the mind.
Once I feed you with an idea that you are susceptible to something, look, I can feed you with an idea that this pill that we just got from the pharmaceutical company, it's the greatest, best thing for your issue. And I give you this pill and you get better. And then later you find out it was a sugar pill, and everybody goes, yeah, that's called the placebo effect. And I go, what does it really mean? I said, you didn't get healed by the pill, you got healed by the belief in the pill. And I go, well, yeah, that's what placebo is all about. And at least 1/3, minimum of 1/3 of all medical intervention is, it's the placebo effect where the healing comes from. Everybody goes, yeah, I know about the placebo. I go, yeah, but that's a result of positive thinking. What about negative thinking? And this is what we don't talk about, but the reality is it's equally powerful in regard to affecting your biology as is positive thinking, but it works in the opposite direction. A negative thought is called the nocebo effect. Can cause any disease and you can die. If you believe you're gonna die, you can die from the belief. So we really have to watch out, because as psychologists would tell us, 70% or more of our thoughts are negative and redundant, replaying the same negative thoughts. I go, if thoughts had nothing to do with it, fine. But thoughts, positive or negative, shape our biology. And all of a sudden it says, well, now it's time to wake up, because our negative thinking is manifesting a negative life experience.
So here's the placebo effect. If we expect it to work, if we truly are motivated by it. Now, if you're doubting you're going to get well, or you're doubting this medicine is going to work, guess what? It's not. Later in the year, we're going to do meditation, and I say, if you don't think you can meditate, you can't. And that's true. But if you think you could get well, the sugar pill or the fake operation could do it for you. What could we do if we truly harness the power of the mind, an attitude of gratitude, rather than the constant stress and worry and anxiety? Doctor Strange. Now, I must admit, I am not the biggest fan of these types of films, the Avenger films. I did watch a significant part of, I watched 3 of them, I believe, so that was like 93 hours or something. But anyway, one of my favorite students of all time told me about Doctor Strange. Or actually, I was bad-mouthing her about Doctor Strange. And then turns out that I decided to watch it. And believe it or not, Doctor Strange is this very concept that I've talked about for years. I'm going to show you a brief clip. We'll see if it gets cut off by copyright or not. But the idea of Doctor Strange is he's an egotistical neurologist surgeon who gets in a bad accident, cannot heal himself medically, goes up on the mountains of Nepal or Kathmandu or somewhere in India, and he's healed by his mind. And here's a little clip from it. Hopefully that does not get cut off. So, the idea of him going to the top of the mountain, it's part of a much larger film. But oftentimes at these Indian retreats, Hindu retreats, Advaita Vedanta retreats, they have places called ashrams. An ashram is a place where you can meditate, you get away from newspapers, and you get away from television and all of the noise of life. And a lot of times in the ashram, you will go into a room for 2 weeks all alone. There's nothing to do in there. There's barely even a window to look out of. And you're supposed to stay there for 2 weeks. Now, when I ask kids who could do that, most kids could not do that for 2 hours. Be in a room with nothing to do. Why? Kids are going to begin complaining. They're bored. They want to do stuff because in our society, we're always doing stuff. We're always moving to the next thing. Well, what if you had to stop for a second? What if you had to face your thoughts? What would you do? You would kick and scream and cry, and you would put on The Office or something else on Netflix, and you would do what I call American meditation, which is mindless viewing of something as a way to distract yourself. You can look at your Instacrap feed and keep scrolling forever, or whatever it is. You cannot face your own thoughts. Most people can't. Now, you might recognize the earlier slide in the beginning having to do with the pandemic. Many people have been locked alone in their houses for months now. And that's probably the reason we have more anxiety and depression. The question is, if we could actually use this time to face our thoughts, to realize why we think the way we think, and then utilize some of the things we learned about earlier in this PowerPoint, bringing back an attitude of gratitude, could we actually overcome the mental block that we have in our head that does not allow us to be alone with our thoughts? At any given moment, there are lots of sounds going on. There's lots of stimulus. And one of those stimuluses is our thoughts. The question is, do you always have to listen to your thoughts? Or can that just be a stimulus that you realize is repetitive noise and you redirect to a more attitude of gratitude? What story are you telling yourself? Here's a concept in the power of the mind. Most everybody has a story they tell themselves, and in most cases, it's a woe is me story. Here's the weird thing about the story. Only you know that story. You made the story. You're the only one who's ever hearing the story. As things happen on a day-to-day basis, you take evidence from life and you add them to your story. So if you have a woe is me, nobody likes me, I'm unappreciated sort of story, or my parents or my condition have made my life so difficult, every negative thing that happens, you're going to plug in as evidence. But here's the thing. It's like you're locking yourself up in a jail of your own thoughts. You're the one who's locked yourself up. And you're the only one who could free yourself by potentially ending this repetitive story and moving on to a different way of thinking.
Sam Harris, author of the book Waking Up, logically breaks this down in an interview with Joe Rogan. He gives the example of having a massive soreness in your shoulder from one of two situations. One, you're very sore because you hit a new personal best on deadlift. Or the soreness might be the result of cancer and you're waiting for the biopsy results to confirm this. So the sensation could be pleasant or unpleasant depending on the conceptual frame. The pain could be coupled with pride or intense anxiety. Being able to decouple sensation from your evaluating inner dialogue would be an incredibly useful skill. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian Holocaust survival and neurologist, said that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom.
So here's the trick, and we will get into this later in the year. I'm just introducing it now. The trick is to non-judgmentally, that means don't judge yourself as being dumb for doing something, to catch yourself when you're having negative ways of thinking. Instead of being the person who's having the thoughts, you become the witness or watcher who watches the thoughts. In other words, here comes that negative thought again. The question is, do you have to listen to it? Now, the trick is just catch yourself doing it. Catch yourself having the negative thoughts. If you're good, you can redirect your negative thoughts to something positive. But the more you catch yourself, the less it's going to happen over a long period of time. On the right is Ram Dass, an Eastern philosopher. My own strategy is to keep cultivating the witness. That means growing the witness, that part of me that notices how I'm doing. To cultivate the quiet place in me that watches the process of needing approval. We all need that. Of the smile on the face, of the false humility, of all the horrible, creepy little psychological things that are just my humanity. And watching them occur again and again and again. If you've ever done a public speaking thing and you're doing the presentation and it's going well, and then all of a sudden you begin thinking about how you're doing badly and nobody's listening, and now you're not thinking about the presentation, you're thinking about something else, you have separated yourself from what you're talking about, and your presentation is probably going to go into the mountain. What if you, though, instead of separating yourself in that negative way, if you could literally take a step away from your negative repetitive thoughts and have a life that basically isn't governed by your repetitive negative ways of thinking? And we'll finish it off with a quote from the Buddha. We are what we think, and all that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. So, as homework, not only should you write a journal, but try to apply this concept. Try to have positivity and see if it actually helps you.